There's going to be a big event that will change everything soon. It might sound like clickbait or like he's just trying to get people to click on the link or watch the video. There isn't any doubt that a big event in the world is coming up soon that will change everything. And I believe it all has to do with the sanctions in 2022 and even earlier in 2008 when they were set up first. But there are many things we need to talk about. This video will talk about a lot of things, so take it easy. Everyone is welcome to join the group. My name is Nick. People who haven't seen the channel before can sign up to do so at the end of the show. Let's begin with the trade war and taxes. Not long ago, the US and China went back and forth, and the US has a lot of noise about what's going on here. The Chinese government in the US has said a lot about it as a reaction to the trade talks, which you could tell were very important. The US is beginning to say more to China. Give the extra inch. In spite of US threats, he will not give up. Do not forget this. We saw this before the fight. The anxiety could rise as they start to move back and forth. This is because China put 125% taxes on goods coming from the US. This came after we put 145% taxes on goods coming from China. This means that the trade war and tax talks between some important countries are getting worse again. Now that I've talked about China, I mostly think about the BRICS and how well they've been doing because of the punishments. There has been a lot of pressure on the US dollar, and I think this will continue. A lot of people don't seem to care that the dollar is losing value. There will come a time when we need to worry about moves to get rid of the dollar, even though that's not a big deal right now. But first would like to talk about what the big names are saying. The same as BlackRock. BlackRock said not long ago that inflation in the US would be much higher. This had something to do with what Larry Fink said on CNBC as well. He said the US was very close to a recession and might even be in one now. As of last week, President Trump announced broad taxes which sent the stock market down. A lot of people are worried that the economy will slow down. The rates on both sides have been put on hold for 90 days, so all of them are expected to slow down until people have more faith. That means more and longer confusion. The CEO of BlackRock was worried about the economy, but he said he didn't think the US was in a financial crisis and that big AI and other trends would stick around for a long time. We changed what a recession means, and that's what I want to talk about now. We already knew that the GDP had been growing less than it should have for 2 quarters. In fact, we got that information about 2 or 3 years ago, in the fall of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. Now that we think about it, what have we been seeing since then? Some businesses have been going down. A lot of pain. For instance, banks started to close in 2023. A lot of people still say, well, it was mostly crypto banks. It wasn't really. A lot of smaller banks also shut down around that time too. Things must have been really bad for banks at that time. We didn't really pay attention to that because Bitcoin went up, so crypto was still going through the roof. When big banks shut down, haven't we been in one? Everyone asks when someone talks about a recession now, because a lot of you will say, well, we've already been through a recession. They speed up big changes whenever we talk about them. Something is going on where nothing happens until the world is in trouble. I don't think it will happen in the next couple of years either. It looks like it will happen at some point in the future. Let's hope we can get there without going to war. That would be very helpful. There is no question that these are the worst problems that these markets have ever seen. And I'm not just talking about crypto. When we talk about money markets and the stock market, people don't miss them. Some quotes in the past say things like, don't waste a good crisis. They've said that many times before. Since 2008, there have been many big changes to the system, but many problems still haven't been fixed. Let's go all the way back to 2008. There are still a lot of problems from back then. The fractional reserve banking system we use now is a big scam that speeds up crises. I've also said on this channel that nothing has been fixed since 2008. Yes, there have been some small changes, like adopting ISO 2002, and some changes to payment apps user interfaces, but nothing major has happened because these areas haven't been through a major crisis. We think that these markets will have a big problem at some point. This is something that will happen all over the world. If you think about it, the conditions are already there for this to happen. Take a look at the case in the past 2 weeks, or more precisely since early January 13th. I've seen the dollar fall. At the same time, I've seen gold go through the roof. We already know that risky investments do well when the dollar goes down, but why is the price of gold so high? In general, gold prices go through the roof when something breaks. Let's go back in time and back up to 2008. Back then this was gold. When it hit lows, it went through the roof. And gold is doing the same thing right now. This means that in the next 12 to 24 months, give or take, something big is going to happen in these markets. This is now getting a lot of attention. For example, the price of gold is through the roof if you can't tell that something is broken. There was a story in Gold Telegraph about the Federal Reserve that said the Fed would be ready to use all of its power to keep the markets safe. That's it. There will be new GT talk soon. With all the different fees, Susan Collins says the US Central Bank was ready to move. Why are those fees being charged? It's for the printing press. They need to make more money. One important person said the Federal Reserve is here and ready to help stabilize the market if needed. The US Central Bank was ready to use all of its tools. They're trying to tell us again that there's no need to worry about liquidity and that the markets are still running smoothly. She did say, though, that the central bank can fix issues with how the market works or with cash flow if they do. Have had to set up a few tools quickly. What she said, according to the Financial Times, we would definitely be prepared to do that as needed. In the past, steps were taken to cool down markets that were getting out of hand, and this makes me think of something I need to go over again. This wasn't seen until 2023, when banks began to fail. Japan was actually under a lot of stress at the time. If you remember, their currency was also starting to fall apart. What took place? The Federal Reserve did save Japan, but that is crazy. And the reason is that Japan owes the US the most money. The company with the most US debt was about to fail, so we bailed it out. Fail that happened in the year 2023. Even now, when taxes are being talked about and the trade war is getting worse, Japan is still under a lot of stress. In addition, we got a big story from CNBC about something that happened on the 11th. When bond prices go up and dollar prices go down, Fed's Keshari says this is proof that buyers are pulling their money out of the US dollar. To be honest, it looks like the Fed is finally telling the truth. Still, it's funny that I just wrote a post about a similar issue and how the US will fight it, since the first line said that China raised tariffs on US goods to 125%. Look at all of these places that are like China. These countries don't use the dollar anymore because what the US does also has a big impact on their paper money. Many people have called it binary, but China and Russia both call it bullion. People have been talking about leaving the US dollar and the US banking system for years. Most of the time we think back to 2022. I did say to break down the old to make room for the new, something brand new that has never been seen before. That government was in charge of it. Every other country sped up their plans to fight the dollar because of the trade war, which was a lot like the sanctions in 2022. I do look at the taxes on China again because I think they will make the fall against the dollar happen faster. No one needs to be told that the BRICS are moving on payment methods based on blockchain and even their own digital coins. Since 2008, the dollar has been used more and more, no matter how it sounds.